yeah, I was saying that the point of this meeting today is really to clarify what are kind of two closely related pieces of work, the final research report and the October seminar. The session, as Ruben mentioned, it's been recorded because we really want to provide as much information as possible, and this will be a reference for the work you'll be doing in the next few weeks. Just going to the agenda now, Ruben, please, thanks. We're going to start with the final report requirements, and then we are going to move to the expectations for the fall seminar. You'll hear first from me around the final research report. My communications colleague, Anna Maria, will speak to the formatting and publication considerations. And my colleague Val is going to walk through the seminar presentation guideline. And SRDC is going to come back to provide some logistics regarding the seminar itself. And I'll come back towards the end for the next steps and maybe some resources, and we are all going to be available for a Q&A. Really, before we get into the substance, I also want to acknowledge that everyone joining us today brings significant experience in conducting research, writing reports, presenting findings to different audiences. So this session is really not to underestimate that expertise. Or to suggest that there's only one way to communicate good research. We thought this will be helpful, particularly as we move towards the final stages of this PIAAC initiative, to make FSC's expectations clear, consistent as possible across all the research teams. And for the reports, that means, for example, clarifying what we are looking for from, to some extent, a funder perspective, but also, more importantly, knowledge mobilization perspective, including how the research report products will eventually be prepared for a much broader audience and publication. And for the October seminar, Val is going to speak more to that, but the goal is not to teach anyone here really how to present. It's really about creating some kind of a share parameters so that across all the research projects, the presentations sort of work together as part of more of a coherent seminar rather than feeling like completely separate sort of academic conferences. So I will maybe say today is less about how to present or write a report. It's more an opportunity to clarify expectations, maybe share some practical guidance, and make sure that everyone has the same information as we head towards October. Next slide, please. So regarding the research report, so I would say the key message here is that the final research report is not just an academic paper. For us, it functions more as a knowledge mobilization product that is useful for policymakers, researchers, practitioners, educators, and other stakeholders. So, I really want to clarify one thing here before we move on. So there is a difference between what you submit to FSC, the final research report, which we are going to provide some feedback and you are going to make some revisions. And that report is ultimately going to make its way on our website. That's one thing. FSC is, you are free, and FSC sometimes encourage you to use the output of your work for academic publications, for example. That will require, for example, different formatting and different guidelines. You can also use that output to publish something on your own website, and you might have different guidelines for that. So really what we are talking about here is the final research report that you are going to publish, you are going to submit to FSC. So you are, as I said, you are going to revise and adapt your work, but please keep 3 questions front and center as you do that. Those questions are: what did you study? What did you find? And why does it matter for Canada's skills ecosystem? So these are really clear things you should keep in mind as you draft and revise your report. It has to be, you have to try as much as possible to make it clear, accessible to a wide audience, which means sometimes minimizing jargon. You can try to keep the body of the report as streamlined as possible. We have a maximum of about 30 pages, give or take. We are not really strict on the number of pages, but please keep that, please keep the final number of pages around 30 pages. You can put everything else, technical materials in the annex, and we don't have a limit for that. Next slide, please. I'm just going to go quickly through the content of the report, because this is already present in the guidelines we share with you. And if you don't have the guidelines, towards the end of this presentation that we are going to share, there's a dedicated slide where you have all the resources and references. So this slide pretty much summarizes what the main sections of the report are from our perspective. The exact structure can vary somewhat, but the report should at least include a clear executive summary, an introduction, context, or a little review, your research design, some of the key findings and implications, and as I said, the annex can be added towards the end. And try to make really, we really stress that, try to keep the main body of the report focused and accessible. With technical materials, again, you can move everything in the annex wherever possible. Next slide, please. So in terms of, so once you've submitted the draft of the report, we do some kind of a quality review at FSC where we are looking for whether all the required sections are there, but we go beyond that. We'll be looking for whether, for example, the report clearly connects back to the research gap, whether it focuses on a manageable number of meaningful findings, whether those findings are, your interpretation of those findings are appropriate, and with some appropriate caveats, and whether the implications are specific enough to be useful to people outside of the immediate research community. And and also we'll be looking for a synthesis in the body of the report. So rather than walking the reader through every single table or every analytical steps you have taken, the report should just bring the evidence into some kind of a coherent story. So for example, what did you learn? How confident can you be in those findings, and what do they mean? And the rule of thumb really here is for the report to remain somewhat, I mean, the rule of thumb here, sorry, it is for the report to be focused, the evidence story and what it means, and move the detailed technical material into the annex wherever possible. And I just want to clarify one thing here before I pass it on to my colleague from the communications team, Anna Maria. Next slide, please. So just this October 1st submission deadline, we recognize that some teams are at somewhat different stages. We have, by the way, we have read your quarterly reports and very interesting stuff in there. So we recognize that by the time October 1st comes, you might be at different stages. So what you provide by October 1st does not necessarily mean have to be a complete polished first draft. A sufficiently detailed outline, for example, can also work. It can provide us with enough information to understand the structure of the report that is coming up. The main findings, for example, you are expecting to emphasize in that final report, and some kind of a directions of the interpretation and the implications. The purpose is maybe at that stage by October 1st, just to give us something substantive enough for us to review and react before we get the final report. And yeah, and I'll pass it on to my colleague, Ana Maria.
Great, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that kind of gives you a sense of when, when that review from FSC will begin. October 31st is when we expect those full reports to make it our way. And it's like, just to reinforce what Christian said, it's really about having visibility for our team of when you will be able to submit those, both the draft by October 1st, and then obviously meeting that October 31st deadline for the full report. And so this is where FSC's quality review will happen. The goal isn't, to make substantial changes, but we will be making sure that the final product meets all of the requirements that we had set out and have given you, and from a comms point of view as well, ensuring that it meets our publication readiness, right? Of course, all authors will have an opportunity to review and approve these suggestions. This is a collaborative effort, right? So we will be working very closely with you for any suggestions or recommendations that will be made. And following, I believe, you all would have received an email from me over the summer about with more details on accessing our report templates. And ensuring that we highly encourage you to use our report templates. It will ensure that both the required fields, such as funding recognition and branding, are all consistent throughout all the reports that we receive. And as I had mentioned at that time too, so we want to accommodate, different workflows. So we have provided the template in different formats, including Adobe, including Word and Google Docs. So I will just also flag at this point, if there are any teams at this point that know for sure that they will be using, for example, Adobe for their final report, I'll just put it out there to get in touch with us. We would like to know that in advance. Just because there will be, I think, using the Adobe file will, might require a little bit more back and forth in terms of how that information is shared. And also we'll likely need the editable version of that report as well, not just like the PDF that's produced from that. Yeah, and a little bit too, I don't know how extensive, your teams might choose to be including charts and visual data in your reports. That's all, I think, encouraged, and any team can decide how much of that they would like to include. But we also ask that likelihood we will also need the original Excel files for those. So just keeping that in mind when submitting. It's not just, a final report. It will be editable versions of these, and this will just ensure that we have access to be able to make any sort of formatting that we might need to do, and also will support us for publication. As a reminder, Future Skills Center will produce both the cover and the back pages for the reports to maintain that visual consistency across the series. So this was communicated to before, but let me know if anyone has any questions. But I think we do have a Q&A coming up, so we can address that. And in terms of how your work will show up, we do plan to have the series featured on the Future Skills website. We will be planning for a landing page for this series. So each report will have its own HTML page, and that will also be the place where the report can be downloaded, publicly by anyone. At this point, it's looking like publication will likely happen in early 2027. We'll have more details, be able to share with you as time goes on of when that publication pipeline is shaping up, but it's looking at early 2027. And of course, we're planning for a marketing campaign to promote the insights from this series. And, to Christian's point about encouraging, plain English and accessible writing, we highly recommend. This will ensure as well that the insights from your reports can be taken up by policymakers, practitioners, other researchers, and obviously it will support the mobilization of these insights further, right? So, yeah, I would say that's that's an overview. I do see some hands. I don't know if you want to, the Q&A is coming up, or if you want to take questions now, but I'll defer to Christian or Ruben.
Yeah, I see Kaylee has her hand up. Maybe Kaylee, if you have an urgent question, we can take the question now. And
yeah, I'm just wondering about when we send the data. We have a lot of tables and a lot of charts in our report. What I usually do is just prepare one Excel file for anyone who's designing something for me, and then it's all just labeled like chart 1, chart 2, chart 3, et cetera, and all the data's in there. Is that the kind of process we should be thinking we're going through for you guys too?
Yeah, an editable Excel document would be very helpful. Different sheets to break up, the different charts. Yeah, that would be exactly what we would be looking for, and yeah, that would.
Okay.
And a large part of that, like I said, is for us to be able to have the option to be able to reformat any of those, but also thinking about translation and OFSC being bilingual, we likely will have to get a large chunk of this translated, and so that will support us in that work as well.
Okay, thank you.
thanks. Thank you, Ana Maria. Val, you're up.
Yes. Hi. Hello, everybody. So nice to see you all. As Christian said, my name is Val Duarte, and I am from the Insights and Knowledge Mobilization team here at FSC. And now, if we go to the next slide, we'll be talking about the fall seminar. So, as Christian said at the beginning, this is not meant to be you need to follow this set of rules for the presentations for the day of the event. This is mostly just some kind of guidelines so we are on the same page in terms of structure and some kind of key elements that we have seen in our knowledge mobilization efforts with all the projects that we work with, into how to actually make it impactful, because we do know that the research that you're conducting, the findings that you're getting at, all of that is very important, and there's a lot of information in there that we want to have an impact and come across as something that would cause action and have some kind of buying, etc. So we just want to set you up for the best of the success in terms of transmitting during the presentations. So the fall seminar is designed to, as you can see here on the slides, to surface new evidence of the PIAAC cycle 2, kind of link those insights across the research teams and themes. And it's meant to be a conversation during the whole day to discuss what the evidence means for Canada skill systems. So we already have the reports, but this is more live, so we just want to be a bit more engaging, so people in the room, because the audience is going to be there's going to be a variety of people with different levels of understanding of what PIAAC is, the methodologies. Maybe some people might not know exactly everything around the things that you're going to mention. So it's just to be which I'm sure you know, to be on the same page in terms of how we can talk about these elements. Now on the next slide, we have designed the agenda for the day to also support this. We are setting the context and kind of basically saying why PIAAC evidence matters for Canada's workforce, explore that evidence during the presentations, and then connect all of that during the both days of the seminar. So we do have the Q&As where people can engage a bit more with with your conversations and the findings that you're getting at. And we do have a panel from day one about people listening and the people that are going to be in the panel kind of responding and commenting on what do they think about all of the findings that you are sharing for the first day. And then we have an activity on the day two that is going to be a bit more engaging, hands-on with people at the event. So the main idea is to build that single narrative arc for the entire seminar. The goal is to just not have like one presentation and then like cut one after the other as very singular presentations, but just like a coherent narrative during the day. And we have ensured to maybe have that add to that or supported that goal by assigning who is presenting with whom, which projects are paired together to kind of have some kind of coherence to the day and the way that we're going to be presenting. So on the next slide, also we have the kind of a structure that we thought it would be a good idea for you guys to follow. So now, again, the 20 minutes that you have for your presentation, you can structure however you want to structure it. But I think that these 4 elements to have it somehow to guide the narrative and the story that you're telling during the day. And I'll get into each of them in a minute. But the first one is why. What's the question that you're asking, and why does it matter? Why do you decide to ask this question? How did you use PIAAC? So that would be a method slide, or which was the data, the sample, the analytical approach. Then the what are you learning? That is the one about the findings. So you don't need to have a finding like a final, all complete finding. It could be like what the research is pointing to. And you can also include the challenges or unexpected turns while conducting the research. So something that was surprising that you didn't expect to happen, that's also engaging is part of the research and the process. And then at the end, what is your next question? So what remains unanswered, or is there any lingering question that you will need to ask and to kind of prompt to the room? I think that finalizing or ending a presentation and a conclusion kind of ends the loop of conversation. Of course, you will have a conclusion, but it will be good to end on kind of like what is next, or what is that question that remains unanswered, so the room can also engage with that conversation towards the end. We have a presentation test, not a test, but like kind of some kind of signal for you at the end to see if the audience remembers only 3 things the next day, and probably they will remember only 3 things or maybe 2. What do you want those things to be? Like, what is the most important thing that you want people to remember or to take action on? So I'll just briefly go into the next slide, and I'll just go into the next like one by one. So maybe you can spend 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning. So you state your research question in plain language, connected to a real tension or problem, whether in the labor market, the policy landscape, the skills ecosystem. Why did you decide to pursue that question? And then what didn't we know before this research that we needed to know? So that's also part of the why is this important to be researching right now. The next one is some suggestions for presenting your why. So what made your research question urgent? I'm not going to go into all of the examples that we have here. I know that you'll see the recording after, and you'll also have the slides. But some compelling way to start your presentation and start your why could be either a problem, a tension, or a question. Again, these are just guidelines. So a problem is, for example, all of this data is just for example purposes. Like 1 in 3 highly educated workers in Canada say that their jobs do not fully use their training. So that is a problem that we're seeing. Attention will be something that is in contradiction with each other, something like employers consistently say they're hiring for adaptability, yet many graduates are still being evaluated almost entirely on grades. So that is something that is like contradicted, or there's like an irony in it, or a tension, or a question that you can start with. So we will just like bring people in the audience and say like, like just tell me more, kind of make it more engaging. The next one is, I believe, the how you use PIAAC, which is the method section. So who is in your sample population and what you did with it. So what was the analytical approach that you used for this one? I know that this is going to be a bit more heavy in terms of all of the information and methods that you use for this. It could be something around 5 minutes. All of these are guidelines. I know that that day is going to be maybe different than what you expect it to be as you're talking. But this is the method section, and what you did with the data and what that led you to. Next one. This is the kind of meat and potatoes of the presentation in terms of what are you learning, or what are the findings, or what is the research pointing to. So each finding slide, you'll be good to have like a headline, like a full sentence that states the finding directly. If you can have a visual, it will be like one chart or one image or one figure. It doesn't have to be, of course, and I know you know this, and I know it's difficult because I've been in the same dilemma of there's so many things that I need to say, and then I do want to have a lot of information on the slides, but of course then that means that there's a lot of information on the slides, and people will need to take a lot of time to read it or to pay attention to either what you're saying or the information on the screen. So it will be great to have summary as best as we can in terms of what are the findings, and an explanation on 2 or 3 lines of what this finding means in practice. And as I said here, if your findings are not yet complete, you can present your strongest signals or your early patterns that you're noticing. So I think that the next slide is a bit more information on how this is going to play out that day. So for presenting your findings, I think the most important thing here is to not tell us what you found, but what it really means for the room. So here's just an example, like 40% of immigrant workers in high literacy scores are employed in jobs that don't require those skills. But that means that Canada is importing talent and then wasting it. So is the finding or the signal that you are getting at with your research, but what that means for the people in the room. It doesn't have to be, it's not going to be like impactful or useful or relevant for everybody in the room. But from your own research and for the people that you're trying to get to, or like change and be impactful, then what that means actually for the people that you're trying to reach, either to change a behavior or to get buying and support the idea that you're presenting, etc. Now the next one I believe is for the next slide. This is a bit more information about how you can present your findings, and it depends on the audience that you feel you're kind of targeting a bit more. So what does it mean for policymakers or for employers? Like what your employers change and how they hire, train, or retain workers. Maybe it's something that is going to affect more educators or higher education. So how that's going to change the skills that we're teaching. So always having the finding as this is the finding that we have, but that means this for this specific group. So that's going to be a bit more targeted and more engaging for, and also it's going to be a more significant and relevant way of presenting the impact of your findings, that I'm sure the impact is already there. So it's just a matter of finding a way to take that point across. Okay, the next one, I think is the last one. And this is the end of the presentation will be your next question. So as I said, this is just some general advice on ending on a conclusion. That ending on a conclusion often closes the conversation and says, this is the finding and this is what we did, and that's it. But if you kind of have some kind of question that is still lingering, what is something that you thought that you were going to find and you didn't, or kind of not closing the presentation on a full stop, but kind of opening then again the room for, that's going to be very useful for people to see this, if they want to engage in the Q&A. Maybe people don't have a question, but they do have an answer to the question that you end up your presentation. So that this is just some examples. You can name something unresolved. It invites people to engage in the room. And before ending, I think this is also important to find a time or towards the end to present or announce your upcoming or knowledge mobilization products and activities. So what you're doing with this research and how are you going to ensure, or what are your plans? You can tell us a bit more about how you plan to transfer this information or the knowledge mobilization plans with it. I think this is the last one, but the next slide is maybe something more about a glance of how the presentation is going to go. Again, these numbers are just guidelines. I'm very sure that that is going to change the day of, but this is just when you are planning or drafting kind of the presentation. Just I think this could be useful just for you to see how many minutes you're spending on this and that, and maybe this is all of this that we're presenting. We just hope is useful, and whatever way you can take it for the presentation. And in the next one. So this is timelines for submissions. So it will be great if we can have your slides submitted for review by October 9th, and then we will have both SRDC and ourselves. We're going to kind of check them out and see if we have any feedback or comments or ways that any comments that we have on the week of October 13th to the 16th. And then the final presentations ready, like final, that will be no later than October 19th, because I think that we will need that by that date. Since I'm sure you know, there's going to be like a lot of technical aspects of it that we need to pass it then to the people who are helping us set up all the tech video and whatnot at the venue. So this is the latest that we will hope to receive your presentations, and you can send it to both these emails on the screen. And I think that's my last slide, but I would say that I know that this was a lot of information and a lot of instructions, and I know that we'll have a Q&A, but I know that the actual questions that you will have are going to come to you, if you have any, by the time that you're actually working on the presentations and on the slides. So by all means, reach out. I'm very happy to support. If any of you have any questions around, I have all of this data, and I'm sure that you're very busy. I kind of working on it because I've been there. So I don't know how to present this in like 20 minutes, or just to find a way to tell a compelling story with the data that you're finding. Any support that you need on that, I'm very happy to support you and to help. I'm an email away. So you can reach out these emails or also myself directly, and I'll be happy to support you with your presentations.
Thanks, Val.
Yeah. Oh, I think this is Ruben, right?
Yeah,
Who's taking away with the last. Perfect.
I'm just going to give an overview so you have the context of the in-person meeting. It can better imagine the situation. Val's done a good job of explaining, the main purpose and thoughts behind the agenda. It's going to be a 1.5-day event, a very full 1.5 days on the 21st, 22nd of October. As Val said, there'll be presentations at the beginning to introduce the whole initiative, and there'll be a presentation from government on the importance of PIAAC Cycle 2 to policy decision-making in Canada, to set the context for what will be some of the most concentrated work on PIAAC that's occurred with Cycle 2. And we have allowed time for all of the different research projects to present, the 9 teams and 2 from SRDC. So there'll be 11 research team presentations spaced through the day and a half. At the end of the first day, there will be an expert panel to debrief on what they've understood from what they've heard. The beginning of the second day, we will have a session with some international perspectives, what's been learned from PIAAC elsewhere. And we'll have a session towards the end where those present can reflect on what they've heard, share back the key lessons that they'll be taking away. All of this is going to happen in the context of a fairly concentrated session. We're going to be in a single meeting room with 85 people approximately seated at tables. There aren't going to be breakout sessions. We'll have our breakfast and lunch and refreshment breaks all in close proximity to that space. There's going to be a reception at the end of the first day that will provide opportunities for people to reflect on what they've heard and connect and network. And we don't plan anything later in the evening on the 21st. If you want to allow for other opportunities to connect, you can plan those yourselves after 6 on the 21st. And the event ends around 1 on the 22nd at the moment. I think you have seen a draft agenda. Obviously, as the speakers are confirmed, it becomes more firm, but that's the up-to-date as of now. What we're hoping to do, as Val said, is to preload all of the presentations. So we do need them in by the 19th at noon to allow time for all of that work and any technical issues that may arise in doing it. There is going to be a comfort screen for presenters. You'll be able to see your slides in front of you as well as them appearing behind you. We're going to require the use of a microphone. There is going to be ongoing simultaneous interpretation, so that is going to be necessary for all of the spoken content and obviously the questions and answers as well. 2 really important points that I have to say at every opportunity. It is essential that everybody who's going to attend, including every presenter, actually registers for the event. And not everybody has done that, and we do need to get everybody's expectations and requirements and for them to be sure that we know who's coming, to organize the logistics. Please do that as soon as possible. The event link's been sent out by email. And then separately from that, there is another link for those who need hotel accommodation. It is imperative that people book their rooms very, very soon. The offer that we have at a very reasonable rate is going to expire at the end of next week. Our accommodation in Toronto in that week is very scarce and currently running much more expensive than the rooms that we have managed to arrange. You can, once you've booked those rooms, make changes or cancellations even, but you do need to get in to secure that rate for yourselves or anybody else who you know who is attending to get those in the near future. The hotel's not going to guarantee any rooms after next week. So those are the logistics. Also happy to take questions on those when we get to the Q&A. Who's doing next steps? Is that you, Christian?
Yeah, that's me. Thanks, Ruben. I just quickly bringing all of this together before we get to the Q&A. So as a reminder for the report, please use the guideline sort of as your final drafting checklist, and keep us informed about any submission timeline you may have, any delay. Be sure to follow the template that my colleague Anna Maria mentioned for your report to be publication ready. And again, design your presentation for a mixed audience, prioritize your strongest findings and what they mean. And for the presenters, we really trust that you confirm your roles and handouts early so you can keep within your allotted time. And one thing that I mentioned earlier, we did review some of your quarterly reports, and we may reach to some of you to follow up on what you wrote in there. Some of you have had some various challenges, and we hope that since the time you sent us the quarterly report, you have found some solutions to those challenges and perhaps reach out to SRDC. We have a dedicated resource, reference slides for this presentation. If you can skip 2 slides, Ruben, and here. So here you will find all the references. We talk about the email you should use for any general information. If you have contract-specific inquiries, this is the email. SRDC obviously has resources and an email address. And again, you have a link here to the guidelines and the specific instructions for the report template. We have added the registration links again here in French and English, and the hotel booking link. Yeah, so this is the time for maybe questions. If you have some, I'm happy to answer them. Yes, Okan.
Yeah, thank you. So this is quite informative. I learned quite a lot about what we are expected to do in the final report and presentation. So I have 2 questions related to the presentation component. So I'm bringing one of our students to the meeting who is also a co-PI on this application. So we are going to co-present. So that was the intention anyway from the very first point. So I wanted to make sure that that's still okay, like with the current setup. So we will be able to co-present. That's good. So I'm just seeing like nodding heads. So that's good. The other thing is that will we have some time at the end of our presentation for Q&A? I know that this is a 1.5 day type of meeting to discuss our project. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities, but right after our presentation, so in that like breakdown of that time, like, you know, the introduction and everything. So I just saw the time, but there's not like a dedicated time for Q&A. So do we have a few minutes, or like if we have, like how long?
Yes, you will have time for questions at the end. So the way that the agenda is kind of structured right now, and the way that it's going to be is that we have 2, I think all of you are in pairs, but there's going to be 2 projects per kind of block of presentation. And then there's going to be, so it's 20 minutes for one, 20 minutes for the other, and then there's a Q&A for those combined. So I think that there is going to be not exactly after your presentation. If you are the first one on the block, if you're the second one, it will be after. But the reason why we did that is that I think it's it brings that more opportunity for questions from the public to have like, and also maybe there is going to be connections between the two presentations, so they can make like, oh, you said this, but you said that, or kind of find connections with things. So I think it's a good practice just to have a bit more information before we have the Q&A. But yes, there's going to be Q&A for all presentations at the end. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Maybe clarifications? No? Wow. We hope this is a sign that we have been very thorough. But please, if you have any questions in the meantime after this, reach out. We are going to share the presentation recording, but also the slides. Again, do not hesitate if you have any questions.